Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Podpinions.
I'm Rich.
And I'm Bruce. We are episode 28.
Lots of stuff.
Yeah.
Like too much stuff.
Yeah.
As you can see, the notes.
Yeah. It's been a fun-packed, what are we, January 6th?
Yep.
That's when this is recorded. So lots of stuff happened on January 6th. And
Trump this morning, we'll get to the Maduro stuff in a minute, but Trump this morning had a breakfast meeting with Congress, the GOP members of Congress. And he ran over the January 6th stuff and exactly what he said, which was not to incite a riot. We all know what he said,
right.
But the Dems and the left take it out of context.
And the news media.
Right.
Propagandist. So
he then said, I wonder if Nancy Pelosi is still talking to her daughter. And I thought about it for a second. And then he said, well, do you remember that video that the daughter took on her phone of her mother saying, I should have taken those 10,000 troops from Trump?
Right. And she just happened to be there doing like a documentary or something. On so.
And it got out. And
it's amazing how just all that stuff lines up, like just happens to be there, you know?
I'm finding it amusing.
CNN being just happens to be at like some of these arrests that were made on the right.
Who was that? That was
Stone, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Roger Stone.
Yeah. They just happened to be there 5 o'clock in the morning.
Just milling around, talking to residents.
Please.
Maybe they were looking for the Leering Center. It was in the wrong state, but
the Leering Center. Yeah, that was a good one. If you haven't seen that one, this guy by the name of Nick Shirley, he's an independent journalist.
Well, I guess he's a journalist now, YouTuber now, or YouTuber now, journalist, I guess.
And he went to Minnesota, and he wanted to find out what was going on with all these daycare centers getting these millions and millions of dollars. And there was this one that had a sign up, Leering Center, Learing. They left the N out. Oops. So then once this thing went viral, they went back and fixed it.
Yep.
But still no kids.
Right. And so since that episode of him going out, I think it was like 46 minutes or whatever, I'm seeing tons and tons of videos. If you're not on X, you got to get on X and just start scrolling through all this fraud they're finding. I mean, they're going not just to blue states either. You know, they're finding fraud in Ohio, California, Washington, Minnesota, of course, Georgia, and it's all over.
I can't wait for them.
All over.
I can't wait for them to get to Pennsylvania,
and
New Jersey, and New York.
I wonder how many Leering centers we have here.
No, probably a lot.
You think?
Yeah.
Well, it is a welfare state, so. But and on that note, we'll be right back.
Welcome to Podpinions, where the world's on fire and we show up like it's a backyard barbecue. Politicians roasted, woke trends torched, common sense, we've got you covered.
Hey everybody, welcome back. We are ready to go, aren't we?
So I'm guessing everybody, knows about this Venezuelan thing now.
Yes.
Right?
Happy New Year.
Well, what cracks me up, though, it doesn't really crack me up. I kind of expected him to do something like this. Now, the Democrats have been talking about this forever.
Yeah.
So
Trump, wasn't it Biden?
It was New York. DOJ. It was New York State.
Right.
There were several indictments and warrants out for his arrest. And Biden did nothing other than put a $25 million bounty on the guy's head. Trump upped it to $50 million.
Mm-hmm.
And then evidently the military, along with the Department of Justice, FBI, CIA, ATF, DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, they have been practicing for the past couple of months. So they were planning on going into Venezuela to go get this guy.
And in the meantime, there was a buildup of military force,
In the
ships.
in the Caribbean.
There were some boats that were taken out. You know them good Maryland dads that were blown up in the
Those fishing boats. I actually said somebody on Facebook, like, start railing me. Well, they were only fishing.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay. With 55-gallon drums on
Right.
them. But so Trump goes in. Well, he didn't go in. He sent people in. And within a couple hours, they get this guy, and no Americans were killed. Evidently, some Cubans were. Evidently, Maduro had Cuban bodyguards. So there's this whole big thing with Cuba, Colombia, Russia, China.
And China happened to be the dignitaries or some.
Yeah, we're meeting with him that afternoon.
That afternoon, yeah.
Which is kind of comical.
That night, he went in. So, you know, I don't know how much you followed this, but Venezuela is like the hub, I guess you would say, of kind of where I think China, Russia, Cuba all started kind of concentrating on to try to get some kind of foothold in the Western Hemisphere.
Right.
And if you go back into, I don't remember what year it was, 18 something, the Monroe Doctrine, that was set up, basically implemented an idea so that no enemy in the outside of the Western Hemisphere would be able to take foothold in the Western Hemisphere. China, Russia, Cuba. So that whole doctrine was set up so that going forward, we could remain a sovereign hemisphere, I guess you would say, controlled by the United States. And when he went in the other morning or evening, I think he was sending a clear message to everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
I was laughing because the one Chinese guy, he was really upset. The one that was visiting Maduro that day.
Right. So they, you know, China's been involved with oil, with, you know, I'm sure the drug trafficking, technology, getting that into Venezuela. And kind of like we've seen with other past things that items from China don't work as well as others. It seems like their missile defense system or early warning systems kind of
didn't work.
Somebody took the switch and shut them all
Well,
off.
that was really cool. Yeah. How they just shut all the electric off in Caracas.
Right.
Like, how'd they do that?
Right. And I did see some things. I don't know how in depth they're going to go with it, but supposedly China supplied them with like drones and, you know, technology like that for any invasion.
Didn't work.
And that was all shut down as well. So I think that's a very clear message to the world saying, no matter what you think of us or what is going on within our shores internally, we are still a superpower. And don't mess with us because we'll go in and snatch you out.
What is it? FAFO?
Yeah. FAFO.
Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't think it was just for one thing. Obviously, if anybody's looking into the questions about the 2020 election in the past, and it just happens, like I said, we're recording on the 6th, and everything that happened January 6th. If you look into these voting machines and the theory behind where everything kind of started, as far as codes and machines not counting correctly or flipping votes, that all seems to be the hub there also, Venezuela. So it's going to be very interesting. And Trump, you know, we went to the rally and, he mentioned it then about the election fraud.
Right. That was what, 3 weeks ago?
The 9th. So almost a month ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Wow. It seems like it was yesterday.
Yeah. Well, it seems like yesterday he took the oath.
It's not even a year yet,
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen.
We got what, 14 days left? So I think
What's going to happen in like the next 14 days?
Right. So it seems like you took the top guy, and if he's going to make any deal, and his wife, so if they're going to make any deal at all, I have a feeling they're going to start singing.
I hope so. Well, what's interesting is Maduro and his wife had their hearing, their preliminary hearing, and he started. I guess there was an outburst. He had an outburst about I was kidnapped.
Oh, Maduro.
Yeah, and the judge shut him down.
Right.
He said this is not the time or place to do that.
Right.
Which amazed me because this was I think it was an Obama appointee. This is like 92-year-old judge or however.
Oh,
old
yeah,
he
I
is.
did see that. Yeah.
Yeah, got this lefty judge, and he shut this guy down.
Right.
So I was like,
But again, what's he going to do? Because the DOJ under Biden
did nothing.
put the warrant. Well, no.
Oh, no. Oh, they put the warrants out. Right.
So they started this, and then
It was actually
everybody
New York,
was
New York
complaining.
State. That's why they went to New York.
Yes. But the DOJ was involved with that, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And then you got Schumer and all these other people. There's videos all over the place of them complaining that Trump didn't do anything with Maduro.
The first time.
Now they're going to have to do something about it. And they didn't do anything. They did all the paperwork, but they didn't do anything. So Trump come in and did something. Now they're all up in arms, and you got all the protesters.
That was the other thing that Trump talked about this morning. Was he's like, it's amazing. Like they had these like professionally printed signs in this beautiful yellow and black that just stood out. And he said, the Republicans have to get the same printers. He said, these signs are awesome.
Yeah, because it was like hours after the announcement that Maduro was captured.
Yeah, and it's like, boom, here's these people out there on the street with these professionally printed signs. Free Maduro. So he said that he was watching, I don't know what news channel he was watching, but he said there was this little old lady holding this sign up, waving it, and the reporter stuck a microphone in her face and said, "What? Your sign says Free Maduro. Like, why?" She says, "Well, they told me to say that. Who's they?
Who's they? They, them."
we had an episode about who is they.
Yeah, who is they?
But so they're all paid protesters. And then there was an ad on Craigslist for protesters, paid protesters.
It's very interesting, and they just put it up overnight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Had all the signs done. They had the megaphones all ready to go, and marching in the streets. Everybody just woke up one morning and decided to go protest.
It's pretty amazing.
So
yeah, but what gets me though is,
have you seen the videos with the actual Venezuelan immigrants?
Oh, they're going nuts. They're loving it.
Yeah, but they're actually confronting these protesters.
Absolutely. There was
saying,
one.
What are you thinking?
There was a guy, and he went up to them. He said, "Why are you doing this?" Mm-hmm. And they wouldn't answer him. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Well, where are you from?" And the guy wouldn't answer him. And he kept pushing it, and they really got like heated with this guy. And he said, "I'm Venezuelan, and what Trump did was a good thing."
Mm-hmm. Yep, and they have no answer back.
None,
because they're paid to do it,
right? And
they're paid to keep their mouth shut.
There's another video you showed me earlier. The guy, I believe he was actually incarcerated in Venezuela for some time. And now he wound up here, and he's ecstatic.
Yeah, but has Mondami said anything? Has he put his 2 cents in yet?
I believe so.
Yeah, I really haven't heard if he
He did. I kind of skipped over because there was like a lot more stuff going on.
Okay.
And,
I would just wonder what his thoughts were.
He's kind of inconsequential.
Oh, yeah, no, he is. But I'm just interested in what the communist arm of the...
Well, what his big thing is, I mean, we can get to this later or another episode, but his big thing now is the people who are renting.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah. And all the how are you talking about, like the property owners or the renters? Yes. So the
he wants to confiscate. He wants to confiscate people's buildings.
Well, yeah, he did make the buses cheaper, 3 plus 3. You know, the 3 plus 3,
free plus 3.
Yeah, but so
and actually,
the reason I asked
Kathy Hochul, who is the governor of New York, the idiot that she is, I can't stand the woman, but she actually said, "No, you can't do that."
Well, you know what? I guess we can get
So she's like stopping the money flowing from Albany.
Right. Well, you know why? Everything that's happened in Minnesota. And the governor there.
Right. So she's watching her butt.
She is
CYA.
A little bit sweaty under the blouse.
She needs a new antiperspirant.
Yes. 24-hour.
Right. No, Mitchum.
Mitchum?
I didn't shower today. I won't tomorrow. And maybe not the day after.
Right. I forgot about that one.
Mitchum, remember that?
I do. Do you?
Wow.
Yeah.
I was on the road with this guy. This reminded me of that. I was on the road with this band, and the guy that sat directly behind me on the bus didn't take a shower for like 4 weeks.
Oh, he told me about it. It was like he wanted to see how long
he could go, right? Without changing his clothes or showering, right? It got so bad. I mean bad.
Yeah.
That the rest of us finally held him down and hosed him off. It was, oh my God. But that's what the Mitchum thing.
Yeah. No, but that's what she's doing. And I think a lot of these other governors are going to have to kind of stick their head up and go, wait a minute. Just like what happened with Cuba and China and everything else. Like this is how we're going forward. And
well, what's kind of scary is we have these stupid protesters here that have no idea what they're protesting. And then there's people who are elated and dancing in the streets in Caracas and all through Venezuela.
Right.
And now there's mobs of motorcycle riding armed militia in Venezuela going after Trump supporters, people who are actually elated about what happened.
Right.
And the pro-regime colectivos, is what they're called, are aggressively establishing checkpoints under Diosdado Cabello, who's a top Maduro ally. And there's a $25 million bounty on his head. But he's sending out all these people, armed people. I mean, they have AK-47s or whatnot, paramilitary groups, and they're tied to Maduro.
Okay.
So they're actually going after the people who are anti-Maduro.
Mm-hmm. So if anybody has, watches this in Venezuela and happens to be in one of these motorcycle gangs, if the lights go out,
you know what's coming next.
You know what's coming next.
So what's going on, though, is the National Union of Press Workers of Venezuela reported that armed forces briefly detained 14 journalists during Monday's induction of Vice President Rodriguez. And I saw on the news this morning, there's a reporter from CNN, one from Fox News, I think Newsmax, and one of the other ones. And they were not allowed into the country. They were in a bordering, where I don't know which country they were in, but they wanted to go to Caracas to see what was going on. And it was evidently a 14-hour car ride to get to Caracas. And they weren't allowed in the country until things stabilize a little bit.
So I know they said they weren't going to, we were going to, quote quote, be in charge of Venezuela, but we weren't going to run Venezuela. And they weren't looking into regime change, or they weren't going to, as far as I mean our government, they weren't going to put, I forget her name, the one woman that lost the election or whatever. They weren't going to just install her as the new president, and he said he didn't think that she had the people's backing.
Even though she won the election.
Right. So, again, back to the elections, and if Venezuela has been a key part of maybe elections that have gone
squirrely. Is that a good word?
Yeah, squirrely. Have gone squirrely. It wouldn't be out of the realm of thinking that they would install somebody to run against Maduro to purposely lose. That looks like a people's favorite. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So maybe, no, I don't think maybe. I think Trump knows that. I think we know that back in 2019 or 2020, Biden was sworn in 2021. So back in 2020, between the time of the election and the time of Biden sworn in, Trump said, we have everything. We have everything.
So why hasn't it come out yet?
Well, again, I think there's steps that have to be taken to actually make it stick, and then also kind of put the net out there to get all the bad actors.
Right. Now, our theory, our Podpinion, is that Trump having not won in 2020 was a good thing, because he had 4 years to put a team together to figure this whole thing out, down to the last dotted I.
Yeah.
And it's finally starting to.
It seems like it's coming out. I don't know that he has all of the right people in place, like we were talking earlier a couple hours ago.
I'm not a big
Pam Bondi
fan. I don't like her so much. I can't remember her name. So I'm just not a big Pam Bondi fan.
Cash, he hasn't. It was all balls of fire, in the getting the what do they call it, when they interview them before they vote on them.
Yeah, right. The hearings.
Yeah. So it was all a ball of fire there, but once you got in.
Well, he's had to go back to Congress a few times, and he got in their faces.
Yes, but again.
But then again,
everybody is getting impatient about, we want results. So maybe
it's
we
not
are.
A year
maybe
yet, Bruce.
I know that. So maybe we just got to take a breath. Tim Walsh just announced that he's not running for governor.
We're going to get to that in a little bit.
And if we talked a couple hours ago, the people that seem to be doing the most, or I guess kind of seem like they're doing the most right now for the country, Bobby Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard.
Two Democrats.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Right. In a Republican administration.
And yet the Democrats hate them.
Right. So maybe it's just like everybody talks about, a chess game, making sure the pieces are in place before you go forward.
I hope so, but I'm impatient too, because we've been hearing about all this stuff for years now. And the way Maduro, we saw the perp walk. I want to see the perp walk with Nancy Pelosi and all the rest of these people.
Right. So getting back to my whole point, bringing up about the woman that lost the election
in Venezuela,
and not automatically installing her, is it needs to be the people's choice.
Right.
The people need to get this together, and there's going to be opposition, the motorcycle, whatever. We can help out, but it's actually the people that have to put their government back together.
Correct. And that woman was interviewed today. She's hiding somewhere. I don't know if she's in Venezuela or if she's in
I'm not sure.
somewhere else.
Right.
But she was interviewed, and she said she will be back, and she will take over as president at some point.
Well, again, I guess we have to see. Everybody talks a big game until you see the lift the hood and see what's under there. But I think that's kind of what's happening here without people realizing. It's, Nick Shirley, all these independent people now going out and looking at the child care centers, the medical aids and transportation, and it's coming up all different states, all different places, and it has to be the people. We've relied on the government to kind of run us and hope that they do what they say they're going to do. But now we're finding out that they're probably just crooks protecting each other and stealing our treasure.
There was this big list I saw on the interwebs. Thank you,
Not
Al Gore.
everybody. Thank you, Al Gore.
No, not everybody, but
Right.
I saw this list and on the interwebs. Thank you, Al Gore.
Thank you, Al.
And it had a list of Congress people, senators, congressmen, congresswomen, and Republicans and Democrats that were supposedly getting kickbacks from these.
From Venezuela somehow, right?
Well, not just Venezuela, but the Somali thing.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
And is it real? I don't know. I'd hope not.
Well, yeah, and I think that's what's gotten in the way of the American people is we hope not.
But then you look at a guy like Trey Gowdy, who I used to love.
Right.
He'd be in those. I mean, the guy was a ball of fire, right? And then nothing would happen.
Mm-hmm.
So now is what we're seeing now with all of this is that Trey Gowdy 2.0.
See, my point is they have to go to Congress to ask for money, right? In other words, somebody has to go to Congress and Congress has to approve this, I don't know, whatever, $400 billion to put out the learning centers or whatever, learning centers. So they have to approve that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the budget.
Then it goes to the states.
Then it goes to the states. But if nobody's checking on that, are they not checking on it because they know?
I don't know, because it goes from the federal government to the
fraud.
state government, and then the states dole it out to all these little learning centers.
Right. So, but what they also do is they dole it out to these NGOs, which then kick it back to the politicians. So it's just a circle.
Well, look at that one that you showed me earlier, right before we came on here.
Mm-hmm.
Some Iranian dude driving a Rolls Royce.
That was California.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Child care center again.
These two young guys with their cell phones get in the guy's face because the place is boarded up, right?
Bars on the window.
Yeah, like nothing.
Yeah.
Not even a sign outside, right? And I guess they looked into the corporation papers and found out where this place was.
Right.
And they showed up. This guy got really irate.
The one kid held the cell phone in, and the guy's getting something out of his glove compartment. And he says, "Oh, here's a certificate, the state seal." And it's a little teddy bear on the bottom of the.
It's like, wow. So they said, "Where did you get that?" The guy was wearing a Rolex.
Yeah.
He's driving like this $500,000 Rolls Royce with gull wing doors, and then he starts taking them around the building, showing them where. Oh well, we had to fix this concrete here. And we had to fix this.
It's
over
not
here.
even. It's about half the size of this table here.
Right.
The concrete that they fix.
I'm sure you had to get a truck in.
Would they
pour
get
concrete.
1.4 billion or something like
it was something
or million?
stupid.
1.4 million. It's crazy.
And then they said, "Where are the kids?" And that's when the guy like drove off.
Right. So if you're importing people and then giving them money to vote you back in, I mean, that's how you turn a country, right?
Right.
That's how you turn that. That was the plan. And if you can look back at all the news not even news, propagandist, fake news media 10, 12 years ago, they were all talking about this replacement theory
Right.
of replacing, the white, the Ku Klux Klan around every corner, behind every tree,
Which was
across
actually
the nation.
which was actually formed by Democrats.
Yeah, exactly right. So
which everybody fails to realize.
I guess they didn't think we'd realize is they imported
Well, let's go back even further.
the people who are going to try and do what the Klan did.
But let's go back even further. You can go back to, well, in our lifetime, like even Eisenhower. I mean, I was a little kid, but the way they covered a lot of this stuff was really, looking back at it now, it was really, really skewed.
Mm-hmm.
And, like Walter Cronkite and all those people, everybody thought he was like right down the middle of the road, and turns out the guy was like this lefty.
Mm-hmm.
And, Mike Wallace, all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so how far back do we go where this started happening?
I don't think it's ever stopped since
I mean, even
the
like,
revolution, to be honest with you.
You're probably right.
I don't think that they've ever gotten over losing the war, to be honest.
You're talking about in 1776.
Yes.
Or 1779.
Yes. The revolution, not the Confederate against the Union. It's, the revolution. I don't think they've ever given up. And I think they've, because...
But that was the British.
It was the British, but also...
The sympathizers.
The sympathizers. And then because Britain had controlled the world, basically.
True.
They had the biggest, most powerful navy, and we fought them off as far as the revolution.
And then they came back in 1812.
Yeah. So I don't think they've ever given up. I think that they've, and I say they've, I don't necessarily mean all of Britain, but the people in power, as far as from back then to their bloodline or families or extended families or the people that they've brought into the belief of we control the world, because there's been different areas that have controlled the world over time since they've been collecting data from past Rome and Britain and
Hungary.
So France with Napoleon, you've got the
He had a Napoleon complex.
Yes. What was the Vikings? So if you look back, at some point in time, somebody's been more powerful
than the next
than
guy.
the rest.
So my question is, who's taking over next?
Yeah, we gotta. Well,
We have all these little.
Let's try to stave that off for a while.
But no, we got all these dictators all over the planet.
Well, yeah. Just look at Canada. Just look at our neighbor Canada and Mexico. The leader of Mexico and the leader of Canada. I mean, they're both against Trump.
But everybody's against Trump.
They want to go back to putting back in somebody with mental problems, can't remember if he's going left or right off the stage and shaking hands with the microphone. They'd rather have that and everybody in behind the scenes
and not asking questions.
Actually run the country the way they want it.
What's amazing is, I'd say in the past month, I mean, it's before that, but the past month, the corruption that has been exposed is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. And that's all tax money, folks. So all the tax money that you're paying is going to pay down the federal debt. Okay, so that's how it works. So the tax money goes in, IRS collects it because the debt is so high, 38, 39, 40 trillion, whatever it is today.
Episode 27 covers all of this.
So all that has to go to cover, and it's not even covering the debt, it's covering the interest on the debt.
Not even.
So anything that these people are passing bills or allocating money for, it's all a loan. Like, we're not even paying back enough for the next year to be able to hand out.
Can you imagine if all these countries that we borrowed money from called in the debt at the same time? Yeah, we're screwed.
Yeah. But it's all been kind of washed over with the American people. Like, the civilians have gotten railroaded that everything's fine, and it's not. So now if you take that, Ukrainian money, billions and billions of dollars there, you take all the billions of dollars we send, I'm hearing they're finding up to $76 billion just on the surface for California now. If you take all that money that they've allocated, that's increased our debt, and then on top of it, give it to somebody that is not even a citizen and pay for their medical, their housing, their child care,
everything,
health care. At some point in time, you're going to have to get it. You're being eliminated, and it doesn't matter what side of the flag that you're flying, whether it's Democrat, Republican, whatever. You got to get it because they are eliminating you, and that's the plan. They want to be in power. They've imported voters because nobody would buy this stuff. Americans won't buy this stuff. Like, what's happening? Well, some have, but there's a lot more anger right now with just the last 2 weeks with this Minnesota thing than I've seen in a long time. And lots of people are talking about it.
Well, going back to the bilking of our tax dollars, ready for this one? The ambassador from Somalia at the United Nations.
Oh, yeah. This is a good one.
The guy has been convicted.
Convicted.
Right? Of, where was it? Medicare fraud and Medicaid fraud. So he had all these companies on the side, and he was in Ohio. Before he's from Somalia, and he had all these companies registered in Ohio. And he was billing through these companies Medicare and Medicaid for health services that never existed with patients that never existed. And he was getting like millions of dollars for this.
And he's convicted.
And, well, no, that's how he got convicted. I mean, they finally busted the guy.
No, but I'm saying he's convicted from those crimes.
Correct.
Right.
And then they make him the Somali UN ambassador. Are you kidding me? Why isn't he being deported?
Well, I guess I don't know. Because I don't know. I don't know.
It's
Americans who pay their taxes every day, go to work, pay their taxes, try to feed their kids, try to be a part of a community, whatever, and they're shit on.
Well, what's amazing, though, with this whole thing is Ohio State records show the company that he had in Ohio still exists. And it's mind-numbing.
So now I think...
And he's the president of the Security Council in the United Nations.
President of the Security Council.
Correct.
So you put
convicted of Medicare and Medicaid fraud.
You put the inmate in charge of the prison.
So how many more of those are out there?
Well, there's a lot. There's a lot. I mean, there's enough. Because it's happening, and that's where all our money's going.
I found that by accident.
That's why your egg prices are up. That's why the gas prices are up. It's not because of they just magically go up in price, right? Inflation, it's all regulated. They come in and it's magical almost. Just when the people start asking questions, something happens. Either the stuff goes down or it goes up. The housing market crashes. Just when people are getting comfortable and, you know, think they got it going, and then the housing market crashes or something happens. It's all orchestrated. Just like this is all orchestrated. They can't get somebody, well, they can get people. They can get people to vote for them. And they're probably people just like them. So, but they can't get enough people to vote for this. So they have to import people, pay them off to vote for them. That's what it is.
This is like a big payoff, though.
It is
like
a big
one
payoff.
guy. So then,
I mean, how else do you pay off other countries' citizens that come in and take over a country? You got to pay them good.
right. And then,
Because if they ever find out what is actually happening,
well, my concern is, what about all these people that came across the border for the past 4 years under the Biden administration that are terrorists? You know,
I think we're inundated with terrorists. These are terrorists as far as I'm concerned.
no, I'm talking to ones that like blow stuff up.
Well, if we keep taking their money, they're going to start blowing stuff up. So,
Yeah, true.
you know, I don't look at them any different. They're a danger to the country, you know.
Absolutely. Well, where do we go from here? There's too much to go for. Well,
But going back to that, to the taxes, if they're allocating money that they know we are paying taxes for, is only not even taking care of the interest on the debt, and they're allocating more money, then they know what's going on.
they have to.
They know
They
what's
have
going
to.
on. They're just trying to rob Peter to pay Paul and keep us busy and interested in something else. Something comes up and everybody runs over here, and then they, you know, fix the books over here. You know, the Pentagon again just couldn't pass another audit. I forget how much money that was, 1.4 trillion or something like that. So all that money, it's just fake. It's phony money. It's a shell game. It's that 3-card money. It's the cup with the ping pong ball over the coconuts.
Right.
That's all it is. And people are starting to actually learn how the games are played. And just like in Venezuela, like I said, it has to be the people that are going to change the government. It has to be the people here to change the government, because if we let the government do it, it's never going to change.
True. Well, now I posted something on Facebook that got a lot of flack, and it was about this whole thing in Venezuela and some other stuff. And it was, I got a private message from an old friend who's a lefty, right? Because I kind of insulted him, which, sorry about that. And he really wanted to know, well, I let you read it. And he really wanted to know why people love Trump. And I laid it out, right? I mean, it was a long, long text. And then he asked a couple questions, and I gave him some more stuff. And all facts. I didn't make anything up. This is all bona fide stuff you can look up, right? And then poof, disappeared. Never responded.
So when people talk about, like,
well, those are the people I'm talking about.
no, but I'm saying when those people talk about, well, how can you like Trump? It's not Trump. It's the results that he's doing.
Correct. I don't care that the guy's not a great orator.
It could be Gavin Newsom. It could be, what's her name?
Which one?
Crockett.
Oh, please.
But if they were producing for America like Trump is, I would speak the same thing. I don't
absolutely.
necessarily like the person
Right.
or I don't have to love the person, or I may not even want to have dinner with the person. But the what they are producing is what's best for the country, right?
Absolutely.
So it's not, they've taught us, or they put in all our brains that a statesman has to act like this.
No, he doesn't.
And it has to talk like this. And if it's not that, then it can't be real. They got to be a crook or a phony or whatever. And it's just the opposite. Right?
No, I think he's real. I mean, there's a lot of stuff he does that is like I cringe and like, oh, why did you say that?
Yeah, because that's how we've been taught that's not how you speak in front of people, or you have to be more educated to do well. We can see what the Harvard graduates and double, triple masters have done to this country. So
let us not
really
forget the piled higher and deepers.
Yeah. I got something to do with them degrees you put on your wall there, and it's a little room with a porcelain thing.
Trump isn't a great orator. He does things that are brash. He does things that are crass, and
but is it?
Well, to me, I don't care.
What I'm saying, if you're taught that, then getting back to because you laid it out and you did it very well. Is it brash?
There could be.
But is it?
I don't
There's
know.
results. Just because he speaks his mind doesn't mean you have to go back and clutch your pearls, and that's not how it should be talked about.
Well, I mean, what I'm talking about.
Not you. I'm talking about everybody that has this perception have been taught.
Oh, yeah.
That
I know what you mean.
This is how it is. And, if you really talk to the everyday person, their favorite doctors are the ones that come out and say, right matter of fact, this is how it is. Pulled no punches, car salesmen, people like going to somebody that actually they don't want to get pressured. They just want information. They have an idea. Those are their favorite people. So why wouldn't you want somebody in charge of the whole country that does the same thing?
Well, I think it's his delivery sometimes, and I think he does it on purpose.
Yeah, I do too.
Just to get a rise out of people.
But again, it's. I think it's trying to break that mind control, whatever they put into us, that you have to talk like this. And, England, for instance, they made, everything's on the driving on the left, right? And that history is the king made a law. I don't know who it was at the time.
King Bob.
But he made a law that you had to be on the left side, so that if somebody in the, I guess, Royal Army or whatever it was back at the time, or that you could draw your sword and fight, and you were right-handed. So that's why everything's on the left, because of that one law that made everybody do that. And that was the reason. And I thought that was pretty fascinating. You could make a whole country change by just that one
point. On their mighty steed.
Right. But how many people actually carried a sword?
Well, just the military and royalty.
It wasn't like the farmers and the,
or jousting.
But the whole nation had to change that.
The jousting thing.
Yeah.
Right. They're on the left.
Yeah. Right. So you can implement things for the whole country that don't make sense for everybody. And I think that's what's happened. And I think we've gotten to the point where, that was, for instance, with the driving on the left, that's kind of like their trademark, or, their royal history. You know what I mean? And I think if we go back to our royal history, it was a bunch of farmers and townspeople, and they went to war against the biggest, most powerful government on earth
At that
and
time.
beat them.
Right.
So I don't know why we have to go back to the, I guess, thinking that
The royalty mentality.
The royalty mentality, because we're not. And I think that's what's so threatening about Trump is he doesn't play that game.
Right. I don't care. I mean, it doesn't bother me.
Right.
Other than sometimes I just cringe.
Yeah,
And
right.
like, I wish he didn't say that. But I'm more result oriented.
Yes.
That's all I care about.
Right.
I don't care if he can't, speak a complete sentence. But the results are what counts.
Right. And I think we've overlooked a lot of good people probably that thought about maybe wanting to be in government. Or I remember in the 2020 election, the guy that was running for, I can't remember his name. He was an ex-military guy.
Running where?
For governor for PA.
Oh, yeah, I know his name. I can't think of his name either.
And he was
great.
I thought he was, matter of fact, told it like it is. Everybody I talked to, oh, he doesn't speak like this, and he doesn't.
Yeah, but now look what we got stuck with. Look what we got stuck with.
Exactly. So I think it's time for people to let go of the history of the royal,
It's 250 years, ladies and gentlemen.
We're a scruffy bunch of mongrels that got together and
Took down an empire.
kicked the empire's ass. So that's what happened.
And it's happening again.
Yeah.
Because, you're right. I mean, there was this empire that was created here.
Yeah. I mean, just look how they fought. The British Army.
Oh, yeah. They would just line up.
And to be honest, I think the United States was the actual inventor of guerrilla warfare.
Well, no, the Native Americans were.
Well, but I mean, as an
army?
An army, yeah. Because they didn't fight like that. They waited in trees waiting for the army to come through and, fight them that they didn't expect it. So there's a lot of history that we've forgotten and we've kind of erased to be royalty, I guess you would say. And I don't think we're royal.
No, not at all.
And and I'm proud of that, to be honest with you. There's nothing wrong with eating with dinner with a fork and a knife, and there's nothing wrong with saying please and thank you, but there is something wrong that if you overlook somebody that really will do a job for you versus somebody who just speaks nice, right? And that's the way it is, or what they do on their side.
They talk good.
Yeah, they talked. The Diaz.
The Diaz, yeah. Oh. It's kind of an inside joke around here.
Yeah.
The two-plate Flatlanders that come here.
Which we both were originally.
Yes, I was a two-plate Flatlander, and all the locals here, don't let me forget it.
So we can make fun because we are one.
So New York, New Jersey, the two-plate Flatlanders. Because we get 2 license plates in New York and New Jersey. Right. Pennsylvania has 1 rear license plate.
It's like North Carolina, they have a saying. There's the damn Yankees and there's the halfbacks.
The halfbacks are?
So the damn Yankees are people that move from the north to, say, North Carolina. Halfbacks are people who, from the north, move down to, like, Florida, and it's too damn hot, so they come halfway back.
They're halfbacks?
They're called halfbacks.
Yikes.
So
yeah, the New Yorkers that come to this area, and they'll ask somebody who's a hunter, did you catch any deers?
Right.
Not deer, deers.
Deers, yes.
Plural.
Mm-hmm.
Even though deer is singular and plural.
Right. Now, if we were uppity-uppities,
we could call them out on it.
We would have a big problem for it. We'd probably have protests, have signs like that, But we're okay with that. We're okay. It's all good.
Absolutely. Now, here's a good one. I don't know if anybody remembers this, But Representative LaMonica McIver, Democrat from New Jersey, Congresswoman.
Wasn't she in that?
She was in that little ICE riot
Yes.
in Newark.
Right.
Well, a judge refused to toss her ICE assault charge out. She was asking for it to be tossed out, that it was really nothing. So a federal judge said, nope, you're going to trial. And that's the end of that. And she was accused of assaulting federal agents outside a Newark immigration detention facility last year. I mean, if you see the video, I mean, she's like whomping on these ICE agents.
Yeah. Yeah, using her position as,
I'm a congresswoman.
above the law.
Yeah. Oh, well, oops. So it's all coming out now.
And I think we're going to see more judges and attorney generals not letting everything go like they did, because the only reason that you would let everything go is because people are then going to do things to make money to pay you so they don't go to prison.
Good point.
I think, the circle has been, well, I don't think it's stopped yet. I don't think everybody's gotten the memo yet. I think there's going to be plenty of idiots out there still doing it. But I think within the next probably 6 months or so, by the time
I hope this all happens before the midterm elections.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, and again, the people have to realize and do something about it, because Trump's not going to be president forever.
No.
And then if you look at Vance or okay, but I'm not doing cartwheels. You know what I mean? I don't know that I have the same trust as Trump, and I never did, to be honest. I like him, but
who?
Vance.
Oh, okay.
I like him. I like him a lot, but I there's just something not quite right there, and I don't know what it is. Might be just I've looked into so much corruption and all this other stuff that's been going on. I just may not trust anybody. I don't know, but there's issues. There's just something there. Just something there.
No, I feel the same way.
Yeah,
because my wife and I argue about this all the time, because she loves him.
Yeah, no, he's a great guy. Don't get me wrong, and I hope I'm wrong.
And
but that's how we got here.
I feel the same way. It's like
that's how we got here.
He doesn't knock me out.
I hope I'm wrong this time.
Yeah, he doesn't knock me out.
Yeah.
But who else would?
But that's what I'm saying. So the people have to get involved with the government, and we have to change it. And that's what's happening. People are now knocking on doors, taking videos, exposing all this stuff.
I love that.
And to be honest, if it wasn't for X right now, Facebook doesn't do it. Instagram doesn't do it.
No, they actually
TikTok
block stuff.
Doesn't do it. They all block stuff. X, it'll block stuff or put the algorithms out there. And now the big thing is the what do you call it? The battle of the MAGAs. And it's like, we just want it fixed, and we do want to see perp walks.
See, my question with this whole MAGA thing, it's like, and being called a maggot, like you're a bug of some sort or an insect. Make America great again. That's what it stands for. Mm-hmm. Why is that an evil term to these people?
Well, they take it as America was never great, so how can you make it great again? That's their big argument. And mistakes have always been made from whatever, right?
From the beginning of
time.
Yeah, Adam ate the apple.
Right. So at some point, there was a fork in the road, right? That America had beaten the largest army on earth. We declared our independence. And at some point, well, And since then, there was the, Industrial Revolution, the trains and the, gold rush and all this stuff was happening. And at some point, there was a fork in the road, and we took the one to the right instead of the left, or the left instead of the right. And I think Make America Great Again is what's happened positive until that fork in the road. We got to get back to that and then continue on to try and make America great again, or make America great, because we weren't finished.
No, not
but
by
at some
any
point,
stretch.
But at some point, it started to get worse instead of continuing to get better.
Well, I mean, you can. There's a whole bunch. I mean, some of these laws that these guys pass is just insanity. Even here locally, some of the local laws and regulations are just stupid.
Well, look at it's not here, but the bird feeders, nobody could own a bird feeder because the bears might come in their yard and eat it.
Yeah, can you believe that? They actually banned bird feeders. Not here.
No, I think that was Jersey.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's how petty our politicians have gotten. That's where it's at. Not looking for the billions of dollars that they're sending out, making our debt higher because we can't pay for it. So they have to borrow more of it to send it out for fraud.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, like how about you spend your time and effort like actually fixing things,
right,
instead of making more regulations.
Right. Exactly.
It's just insanity.
Yeah.
So then getting back to this corruption thing, the Department of Justice, this is really good, charged an ex-Georgia Democrat lawmaker with allegedly fraudulently obtaining COVID unemployment benefits. Now, this is Karen Bennett. She announced her retirement on December 30th after 12 years representing House District 94 in Georgia. So what she did, she was federally charged for allegedly fraudulently obtaining nearly $14,000 in coronavirus-era unemployment benefits. She originally, she used to represent State House District 94, and Brian Kemp, she wrote Brian Kemp on December 30th announcing she would be retiring from her position on New Year's Day after 12 years of service. So what happened was this was a false application for PUA, Pandemic Unemployment Assistance benefits, the federal supplements to which she was not entitled. What happened was Theodore Hertzberg, the U.S. Attorney for Northern District of Georgia, wrote in a court filing this week. Prosecutors alleged that the former representative applied for PUA benefits in May of 2020 and disclosed that she worked for the Georgia General Assembly and ran Metro Therapy, a private business where her role consisted of providing in-home physical therapy services. Here we go with the medical stuff again, right? So they said that in the application, Bennett claimed the job was her primary occupation and primary means of livelihood, and the pandemic prevented her from performing any service in connection with Metro Therapy. In reality, she was not prevented from performing anything, and because of COVID-19. And before the pandemic, her actual role with Metro Therapy was as an administrative one. So she was actually working out of the house doing administrative stuff from her little laptop. She had no hands-on stuff with anybody.
Right.
So she could continue working, they found out. And what the kicker was,
dun, dun, dun.
she was working getting 900 and change a week from some church that she didn't report, right? So originally she was turned down for unemployment, and then she went for the COVID, payments. So she's in deep doo-doo.
You know what I can't wait for? When all this filtration comes down to the local level and the personal community level of all the fraud that's going on and all the payments that was paid out because of the pandemic and somebody stole it from somebody else or
Did you
something like that.
Did you get any money during the pandemic? Remember everybody got like $1,200?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was.
I didn't get a dime because I was still working.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Well, we were forced to shut down at the time.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but yeah, we did. And then we were supposed to get some more that
And it was really stupid.
not everybody got. So
if you were playing, you had to like sit like a million feet apart from each other, wear masks with little holes cut in them. Mm-hmm. It was like the dumbest.
Yeah.
I mean, just stupid.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine, he's a band director in New Jersey at a private school. So I said, how are you handling this thing with the band, with the concert band or jazz band or whatever band? Well, we've taken some precautions. And I said, well, for example, he said, well, I got, those little pads for dogs to, potty train them. And because we put those down, the kids, and then they pick them up and throw them in a garbage can. I said, wait a minute. So it's collecting the spit. Yeah. I said, what about from the spit valve to the floor? It's aerosolizing in the air as it's falling. Mm-hmm. He goes, I think you're taking this a step too far. I said, no, I'm not. I said, now, do you have like a hazmat company coming in collecting these things at the end of the day? Well, no. I said, well, they're saying that it's hazardous. Mm-hmm. So why not have a hazmat company who should have like hazmat containers to put the stuff in? No.
Right.
But he knew it was bullshit too.
Oh, yeah. He just didn't want to admit it.
He was playing the game.
Yeah. And it's the same. I've had conversations with people at that time. In this area, we only had a couple places open, and they were the big box store, big food stores,
and I was
the mom and
guy.
pop.
I was that guy. I swear to God. Go in the supermarket, no mask, and I'd go backwards because they had the arrows on the floor, and it's like, I'm not playing this game.
But my biggest question was, okay, you've taken a whole community who may or may not be infected with a virus, and who shut down everything except certain points where now the whole town has to filter through. And why isn't everybody dying in those stores?
Right.
And nobody could answer.
Because they were wearing their masks.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That don't work.
The mask like this with their nose out. Driving alone in their car.
And people still do it.
Yeah, I know.
It's scary.
But it was fear. Nobody was
I
sure
think
what was going on.
I honestly believe that whole thing was one big experiment on controlling people.
Yeah.
And there's people that really fell for it.
Yeah.
I was not one of them.
Right.
But then again, I'm that guy all the time that just says, hey, wait a minute, this is bullshit.
Right.
And it's a virus. Mm-hmm. I'll take my chances. Thank you very much.
And you got it. You survived.
I mean,
there's people that got it,
I got
rest their souls, they didn't survive.
I got it pretty bad. And I know a bunch of people, some very close friends that died from it.
I know some people, even relatives, that are still suffering from getting it, and kidneys and liver and issues. And
were the Chinese held responsible? No.
Right.
Nobody was.
Well, you can't hold the Chinese because then they would rat out on the American doctors, or what were they called? Health
I don't know.
Administrators or whoever Fauci was.
Now, I don't know if I should say this or not, but I had to get tested. Where were we? Well, we're doing something, but I had to get tested. Oh, I was going in for surgery. That's what it was. I had hernia repair, right? So I had to go to the hospital to get tested. So they were testing people in the parking lot. Did I tell you this? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So here I am in my car, and when I called to make the appointment to get, my EKG and all this stuff that they do before surgeries, blood work and all that. They said, well, you have to go. There's a tent out in the parking lot. Just pull up, and the technician will come out and swab your nose and give you a COVID test and all this, right? So I pull up. Now I'm in the car. I'm sitting there, and this woman comes out, and she's got a clipboard. She's wearing a Tyvek suit. She's wearing a respirator. I mean, it was like rubber gloves. I mean, this woman looked like she was going into a, hazardous, waste place. So she said, oh, okay. She checked me in, and she said, the technician will come out in a minute to swab you. So I'm sitting there, and this guy comes out who's like a zillion feet tall. So now I'm in a little car, right? I'm looking out the window, and all I see is like this, a white suit, right? And the guy says to me with a heavy, heavy accent, look up so I can swab your nose. So I look up, and I start laughing hysterically, right? Now, mind you, this is a COVID test in the height of the pandemic.
Right.
And what's so funny? I said, you're Chinese. Well, what's so funny? I said, you're Chinese. I don't get joke. I said, you're Chinese. That's where I can't believe, like, this is like so ironic and just like so out.
Right.
I couldn't stop laughing, right? So he finally did the test, and he just shrugged it off. So I go in now to check in for my blood work. So the girl says to me, she asked me a bunch of questions, and then she said, did you have your COVID test yet? I started laughing again. What's so funny? I said, the dude in the parking lot's Chinese, like from China. She goes, no. Right? So I said, yeah. So she types on her computer, and she starts howling, right? She goes to the girl next to her. It's like, you're never going to believe what they put out in a parking lot to do COVID testing, right? So they were yucking it up. So now I go to the phlebotomist to have my blood drawn, right? And she said to me, have you had your COVID test yet? And again, I start laughing. And I explained it again. And so she starts laughing. She looked it up on the computer, who's the schedule. And you're like, wow, this is like so bizarre. Yep. Anyhow, I had to share that.
Yeah.
But it was a good laugh.
And there was that was like never, you couldn't tell that story back then.
No,
like
God forbid.
At least you can tell it now, and actually we can laugh about it.
I laughed about it then, too, because I just thought it was so bizarre.
And people laugh, too. It wasn't to hurt anybody. It was just ironic. Right?
It was just, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It was just wacky.
Yeah.
But so now we were talking also about this whole Tim Walz thing. Mm-hmm. And actually, the Minnesota hotel removed from approved
that's right. Yeah.
federal lodging list. So if you haven't heard, the Hampton Inn in Lakeville, where is it, Illinois?
Wasn't it Hilton?
Well, no, it's in Minnesota, Lakeville in Minnesota. It's
under the umbrella Hilton or something.
Right. It was like one of the smaller hotels, but it's under the Hilton umbrella. So the government actually canceled their contract with that hotel chain because they were housing ICE agents and DEA and all these guys that are going after bad guys. Why? The Hilton was canceling the reservations and not telling them. So they'd show up to check in, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you can't check in here.
Right. Then independent journalists started going in with their cameras and their iPhones and their little phones and wanting to make reservations for 10 rooms and saying, oh, yeah, we're with DHS, and, oh, I'm sorry, but we're not allowed to rent to you.
Right. So guess what happened? Hilton Hotel, they canceled this hotel's franchise. Oops.
I guess it'll be the
Days Inn.
Yeah, it'll be the Leering Hotel.
Yeah, right. Yeah, probably. But I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I guess I didn't want to get Bud Lighted, huh?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, that's what would happen.
Yeah.
Definitely that's what would happen.
Yeah. Especially now. I mean, this is
when that
happened, when
The Bud Light
thing, it's nowhere near
this.
as this. No, like
I mean, this is like
billions and hundreds of billions and
it's
hundreds
crazy.
and hundreds of
well,
billions.
all
of
right.
dollars.
So now we're onto this Tim Walz thing, right? So he dropped out of. He decided he's not going to run again. Why? Well, all the Somalians that have these daycare centers in Minnesota who are getting billions of dollars from our government that really don't have daycare centers. Mm-hmm. Well, they're there, but there's no kids, and it's just a scam. So he decided Monday that he's dropping out, and he felt that it was Trump's fault and everybody else's fault except for his fault.
Well, if they start going to jail, I guess they're probably not going to vote for him, and probably doesn't have enough people to vote for him. Can't import them that fast.
Good point.
You know,
but he's been there. This would have been his third 4-year term, so he's been there 9 years,
right?
And so he's kind of done.
Yeah,
and I think he's pretty much done.
Turning the page. Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. But he more than 90 people already have pled guilty, and they're all Somalians. So now that's just the ones that,
and they're gonna start singing for plea deals.
Oh, probably.
You know.
So my question is, he was saying how I'm accountable, and he was trying to clean this up for years. Well, why didn't he just clean it up?
Do you remember the representative that was murdered in Minnesota?
Oh, yes.
For voting against.
Yes.
A Democrat voting against the bill, and her vote was the actual one that killed the bill.
And then she
that
showed
would
up.
have done more of this fraud, and she showed up dead. Isn't that something?
Yeah. Coincidence?
Yeah,
I don't know.
think so. So it's not just let's be honest. It's not just the governor, right? The governor has people working for him.
Oh,
has
absolutely.
Administration.
It starts here and it just
and
filters
they
down.
have people working for them. The administration has people working for them, and then they have people that come to them, and everything has a chain to get approved. So although I want people in cuffs in power that have been corrupt, I want them to go to jail, but I want their whole team going.
Oh, absolutely.
Too. That's all involved.
Yeah, because it starts at the top and goes down.
Right.
Usually what we see is the underlings take the hit.
Right.
And the guys at the top
So
don't.
if you're working for them and you're part of this stuff, you should go too. And that's the way it has to be.
Absolutely. The Republican Governors Association is now asking him to resign, which he's saying he's not going to. But if
Well,
I
we'll
think
see.
I think if the pressure gets too much, he may resign.
Yeah.
He just may.
Yeah.
But who's the deputy governor?
Yeah, that I don't know who
We're
it
gonna
is.
have to look into that.
It's probably somebody that probably doesn't want to be shoved into the spotlight right now.
One of the theories that's floating around is that he knows he's going to lose in November because of all this, so he's stepping down now to let somebody else come in to run. It's like a big orchestrated thing that the Democratic National Committee.
Do they have anybody but Somalis there to
I don't
run?
know. I have no idea.
I mean, you got Ilhan. You got, I think there were some mayors elected that were Somalis. So I think that nation's name has been kind of tainted in Minnesota,
Well, the thing is, though, this was like an orchestrated thing of him stepping down because the DNC evidently got in his face and said, look, you're never going to be able to win with all this corruption. So step down and we'll get somebody that can win.
Right.
So, I mean, we'll see what happens,
Yep.
but I think he's done. Hopefully that we're not going to see him again,
Now, who's running on the Republican side?
I forget. I honestly
I
don't.
know, what's his name, the pillow guy.
Yeah, he is, but I don't think he's got a prayer.
Somebody said Stefanik. Well, again, why? Why doesn't he have a prayer? Because he doesn't speak nice, or he doesn't have a
you remember
position from one of these places that have perpetrated all this fraud?
No. When he was one of the biggest mouths about the election fraud, and the Democrats just dragged him through the mud, and they destroyed his reputation. He almost went bankrupt.
We just arrested the leader of the country where all the election fraud is.
No, I understand that.
So
I'm hoping he can be vindicated.
Right.
I mean, the same thing with
that's my point, and it's not for you. I mean, I know you understand, but it's for the people out there that are going, yeah, he's just not statesman-like. Well,
who cares?
Neither is Trump,
right?
And he's a businessman. He's a very successful businessman.
Spit it out.
Former addict that turned his life around.
Who? Oh, the pillow guy.
Yeah. And I'm not saying he's the best choice, but if you
he's a go-getter.
If you eliminate him because you don't like this or you don't like that or then you're going to get the fraud. You might as well just throw your check out the window.
Well, I hope he gets vindicated, just like I hope Rudy Giuliani gets vindicated from what they did to him. I mean, that poor guy, what they did to him. I mean,
you got Sidney Powell, you got Sidney Powell was General Flynn's attorney.
And he got railroaded.
Yeah. And he was pardoned. So you got Sidney Powell, you got Rudy Giuliani, you got Mike the Pella guy, you've got Patrick, I can't remember his last name now.
There's a whole bunch of them. Roger Stone.
Yeah. That were saying that this is wrong. And Trump did come out. You can look back at the clip, and he said, we have everything. So they've known it was a cheat before. Trump signed an executive order about election fraud, and it was a emergency declaration or whatever they call it, saying about countries infiltrating our election systems.
Right.
So that's still in place. Biden didn't override that. That's still in place. So this has been a progression. I think there's been a couple hiccups along the way, but I think we're gonna get to the root of the dandelion here to actually dig it out.
Should be interesting.
Yeah.
Now, everybody's screaming and yelling about this Maduro thing, right? That it's unconstitutional. It goes against international law. Blah blah blah. Right. Even though the Democrats are the ones who were screaming for years to get this guy.
Right.
So Trump goes and gets the guy. And it was them who, as we mentioned earlier, indicted him, right? And sent out these warrants. So he was indicted in a 4-count superseding indictment along with Desadio Rondon, who's 56, who's head of Venezuela's National Constituent Assembly. There's a whole bunch of them that are wanted, right? And the criminal warrant and the responding to an international drug cartel. So they're going to get him on RICO charges as well, I'm guessing. But this is all based on his drug dealings and the drug running and weapons and all this other stuff.
Right. Then they're going to start following the money.
Right.
And I bet a bunch of it comes back here to these.
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely.
People that sit in this, there's that, I forget exactly where it's at. There's that big white building with the dome, and it's not even a state. It's on the tip of my tongue. I can't even remember.
Well, evidently Maduro negotiated multi-ton shipments of FARC, F-A-R-C, produced cocaine, directed the cartel of the Suns to provide military-grade weapons to the FARC. So there's how they're getting him on the weapons charges, right? coordinated with narcotics traffickers in Honduras and other countries to facilitate large-scale drug trafficking. Those are the fishing boats they were blowing up, right? And solicited assistance from FARC leadership in training and unsanctioned militia groups that functioned in essence as an armed forces unit for the Cartel of the Suns. In March of 2020, Maduro was charged in the Southern District of New York for narco-terrorism, conspiracy to import cocaine, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, and conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices. So, and that doesn't include the RICO stuff, right? So Trump does not need congressional approval, which everybody's screaming about, you know, for this type of operation. Presidents, including Democrats, have launched lethal attacks regularly against individuals. President Obama killed an American citizen under this kill list policy. If Obama can vaporize an American citizen without even a criminal charge, Trump can capture a foreign citizen with a pending criminal indictment without prior congressional approval. And then it also goes back to, well, ordinarily the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations and other international agreements require the United States to notify the embassy of a foreign national arrested and held in the United States. Notice seems a tad superfluous in this case. So in his appeal, Noriega, that was about Noriega. They were, I left out the other part of the DOJ's findings, but that was Noriega. So they're going to use the Noriega trial and all that and put it on this. Okay. The same type of legal stuff. Okay. But the
only thing I'm going to throw out there is, if they get in there and one of the very first things they do is install a westernized central bank, people's antennas should go up.
Absolutely.
You know? So,
I mean, Venezuela was one of the richest countries on the planet at one time until Chavez got in.
Right.
And then this guy. So one of the things that they're going to be doing is they're going to be using the United States of America, Republic of Panama, 34 Stat 2851 U.S.-Panama extradition treaty. They want to use that as a basis to start all this stuff.
I did see an interview.
And then the Monroe Doctrine is the big one, which you mentioned earlier.
I did, when you said Chavez, I did see an interview with Chavez's son who came out and did interviews. Wasn't long after all the hoopla about the election fraud and all that stuff. And he said it was his dad that actually, ordered it to be invented.
Interesting.
So we'll see where it goes.
So with this Monroe Doctrine, the White House now says they have a range of options, including U.S. military, on the table as Trump renews his push to acquire Greenland. So everybody thought he was joking.
No, he wasn't joking. That's the one thing you got to understand about Trump. And if you just turn him off, you're not going to understand him. But if he says something,
he means it.
He means it. It may not be today, may not be tomorrow.
Right, but it'll happen.
Means it.
Right. So the whole thing with Greenland, Greenland is owned by Denmark, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. There's natural resources, but it strategically, from a military standpoint and a security standpoint, it's very important because Russia's like right there, and so.
Plus, they got these like cool hotels that are made into the ice, with the northern lights and stuff.
But he's saying that the use of military remains an option. I think that would be stupid. I think they should just buy it.
Well, I think it has to be presented and
the correct way, right?
No, but I'm saying I think it has to be on the table. It's listen, this is what we're doing. Let's make a deal. This is what we're doing.
Canada's like losing it.
Yeah, well, they're going to be right in the middle.
Right. And so is a bunch of European leaders. So that they want to, according to Reuters, leaders from France, Britain, Germany, Italy, Poland, Spain, and Denmark said Greenland belongs to its people and that only Denmark and Greenland can decide the island's future. And there's a Arizona Democrat, Senator Ruben Gallego. He's announced Tuesday a bill to stop Trump from invading another country on a whim.
Hey, Denmark, if the lights go out.
Well,
that's not going to happen. But they have to put this on the table. They have to put this as an option because this is what we're doing. The Monroe Doctrine is for the security of the United States.
So that where's that leave us with Canada and Mexico?
Well, they're going to have to get on board or lights out.
Well,
I mean,
Canada,
he already said, Canada, come on down. We'll make it a 51st state. Right?
Well,
he wasn't joking.
Probably not.
He wasn't not joking. I'm telling you.
Well, it's going to be interesting. The next couple of weeks is going to be very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But this whole thing with Greenland, I thought it was just like done.
Mm-hmm.
But
the Canada's had China in there doing war games and
yeah, that I don't
all
understand.
that other stuff. So again, with the Monroe Doctrine, same thing with Venezuela. It's part of the Western Hemisphere. We can't let that happen.
Could you picture a military strike on Canada taking out the prime minister? Oh my God!
Maybe Trudeau got out because
he saw the writing on the wall. Yeah, what happened to him? He just vanished.
Yeah, I don't know. He's probably, I don't know. Maybe he was hiding in Venezuela. I don't know where he went.
Yeah, he just disappeared. And the French president.
Yes. Yeah.
The one who's got the Karen for a wife. Who beats him on the airplane.
Yeah, right.
What happened to him? He's been conspicuously quiet.
Yeah. Well, I think they're all kind of
waiting to see what happens.
No, I think they're all intertwined there. All this fraud and corruption and money and world. What's happened to the what was the name of the World Health Organization?
Oh,
and
yeah.
what was the other one?
There's a couple of them.
The WHO and one of the other ones.
UNICEF. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to UNICEF?
The guy that had the heavy, I guess, German or Hungarian accent, the bald guy, looked like the James Bond villain.
Oh.
Klaus Schwab.
Yeah,
Klaus.
what happened to him?
Yeah, I don't know where
They're
he's at.
all quiet.
Yeah.
Here's a question for everybody, right? If everybody keeps saying that George Soros is behind all this stuff, why don't they just go after him?
He's going to die off.
Well, yeah, but then he's got a nephew and he's got a son.
Right, but they're not going to be as tough as
you don't think so?
No.
But why don't they just go after this guy?
And I think that's part of the problem too. I think maybe whatever was supposed to happen, they waited too long because the people that were tough and heartless are now falling down and breaking their hips, and you know what I mean? And like many businesses, once it goes down to the children, it doesn't always survive, unless it's a very, very, very tight-knit structure for the family that's been involved the whole time.
Yeah, I've seen that happen a lot.
Yeah. So I have a feeling that maybe we're at the point now where, all these people that have been in government for 50 years, their kids are not going to, their kids are standing there going, well, do you think maybe you should have took the 10,000 troops Trump said? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like
I still can't believe that.
They don't have that.
Her own daughter got it on video.
Because they've grown up in a different time. When these other people grew up, if you did something the wrong way, you got put in a trunk and shipped up north in wooded area.
Or you wind up in the Meadowlands.
Yeah, right, exactly. And there was no
That's a mob dumping ground, just so you know.
There was no security cameras. There's no, cell phone tracking.
Oh, speaking of which, I saw this piece on the news this morning about Wegmans. the
yes, I did
supermarkets.
see that.
Did you see it?
Yes.
They're using facial recognition and all kinds of other stuff.
And they promised that they were supposed to delete it.
Yeah, bullshit.
Yeah.
So what's happening is Wegmans supermarkets nationwide, they're doing facial recognition, they're doing voice recognition, they're recording everything you say or do, and then it's going into some database somewhere.
Right. Supposedly for marketing. Yeah.
That's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
So guess who's not going to be going to Wegmans anytime soon?
All the health conscious people like to go to Wegmans, and it's the same with this. I meant to do this. We'll do this next time. It's important. People are talking about the what contrails.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in 2026, I had to ask. Well, I asked Grok. Grok showed the not the plan, but the bill and what's supposed to happen. I went to ChatGPT and I said, "Oh, there's nothing there. That's all like a conspiracy theory."
The contrails.
Not the contrails, but there's a company that's going to start doing that in 2026.
Doing what?
And it's American and Israeli combined.
What, spraying?
Yes, this aluminum oxide, whatever, into the atmosphere to block the sun. So then I went into ChatGPT and I said, I asked the same question: is this correct? Is this real? And I said, no, this is, basically a conspiracy theory. Then I typed in, well, Grok has confirmed this. I said, use whatever search you need to do to confirm or deny this, because this has been confirmed by Grok. Then it comes back, oh, I'm sorry. Yes. And it did the same
Really?
thing. Yeah.
Now, who controls ChatGPT?
So if you go on to these different AIs, and I use them a lot for work. I use them a lot. And there are differences in the way you ask questions, the way they present the questions back, as far as trying to stay woke almost. Like you can't ask a question this way because it may be racial or anti-Semitic, but if you go into another program and ask the same question, it may answer the question properly.
See, the whole AI thing scares me.
Right.
I don't like it.
The AI is just a programmed memory bank, basically.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? That can learn and
Well, I put something in. I was looking for something, and I thought, well, let me just ask it a question. I forget what it was. It was something with a musician, from way back when in the 30s. And it said, oh, I'm scouring the web. Thank you, Al Gore.
Thank you, Al.
And it came back like 5 minutes later with this whole big history of this guy. So now where's it get? Is it just a really fast search engine?
Yeah, well, I think it's all started out with Alexa. Basically, that was the first AI.
That's true.
Say, Alexa, how much does the world weigh? Or, how far is the sun from? And I mean, it was like that. So that was really kind of the first introduction to AI for everybody, I think.
And I don't want that in my house.
Right. So that was programmed, obviously, to benefit Amazon,
Right.
Orders and, hey, Alexa, Alexa, order me a ton of tissues. We'll see how many people that are listening to this on a large stereo or whatever. Anyway, that was just a joke.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Imagine like an 18-wheeler pulling up in front of your house. Like, where's the loading dock?
We were just listening to Podpinions, man. We didn't order this. So,
Yowza.
But that was the first AI introduction to everybody,
But it's dumbing people down.
So the way I
really
look at it is, and I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but it's almost like an encyclopedia, because encyclopedias are no longer around.
No, I remember my world book.
Yeah. And we have to make sure that our history goes forward. So if we need to make sure that AI gets our history, we need to make sure we ask the proper questions and it looks it up and puts it in their memory, because there's too many people trying to erase our history. And if we can use that to keep our history alive.
But what's preventing those people who want it erased to erase it in AI?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's a good possibility.
AI wars.
Right.
You know, and then the Chinese, I mean, there's like this big AI war with China.
Mm-hmm.
So what's preventing them from programming this thing?
Yeah, there's really not anything.
It's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Very creepy.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. I mean, but yeah. We're here.
Time to go home.
Yes.
We've been at it for a while here.
We decided to go casual tonight, so we didn't put our shirts on.
I still got my ugly Christmas sweater on.
Yeah,
it's just cold.
Yeah.
It's just too nippy.
And it's supposed to warm up, and then everybody will be sick. So.
Yeah, so I didn't. Well, it was too cold for a short sleeve shirt,
right.
even in here.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So, I guess we'll see what comes on the agenda. But let's make a note to make sure I show you that about the blocking the sun out.
Oh, the contrails.
Yeah. And it's actually a government program that is supposed to start in, I don't remember how long, 5-6 months.
Why do they want to block the sun?
I don't know.
Then we'll have to take more D3
right.
in capsule form.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you next time.
All right. Well, you guys have a good one. Take care.
Slam the follow button. This is Podpinions.